Pro TV will start in 30 seconds. This is a regular scheduled Louisville Metro Council meeting for March 27, 2025. We'll come to order at this time. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hawkins. Councilmember Shanklin. Councilmember Parrish Wright. Councilmember Herndon.
Present.
Councilmember Purvis. Councilmember Leninger.
Present.
Councilmember McCraney. Here. Councilmember Reno Weber.
Present.
Councilmember Owen.
Here.
Councilmember Raymond. Here. Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Councilmember Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember Syme. Here. Councilmember Bast. Councilmember, oh, sorry, ma'am, thank you. Councilmember Chappell.
Present.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Winkler. Councilmember Parker. Councilmember Piagentini. Councilmember Benson.
Here.
Oh, I got you, sir, I'm sorry. Forgot.
Present.
Councilmember Benson.
Present.
Councilmember Rui.
Here.
Councilmember Bratcher.
Here.
Councilmember Hudson. Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge.
Here.
Councilmember Batchon.
Here.
Council President Ackerson.
Present. And let the record reflect that Councilwoman Parrish Wright is now visible on screen.
Okay. Councilmember Parrish Wright.
Present.
Mr. President, you have 25 and a quorum.
Fantastic. Councilman Joseph, I believe you've got a page tonight.
Thank you, sir. My page name is Kate Thompson. Kate is a 12-year-old, and she's a 7th grader at Notre Dame Academy. She's part of Notre Dame's KYA program, so shout out to any of the KYA kids in the room. She's active in her church, and she plays volleyball. Her principal tells me this: Kate is a very conscientious young lady who works hard and takes pride in her hard work. She wants to learn and improve. Kate is very kind and respectful to her classmates and teachers. She's a student that you can count on to help you and other students whenever needed. Kate uses her voice to advocate for herself and for her peers. She makes us very proud. Kate, we are also proud of you in District 12, and we're grateful that you are here with us tonight. Kate comes from a fantastic family, and I'm honored to have Kate as a page tonight.
Welcome.
Kate.
Councilman Batchon, I believe you've got a special guest.
Real quick, the Rodman family, please. All right, so bear with me here. This Saturday will mark 8 years of Officer Rodman's sacrifice of his life protecting the city of Louisville. It is with great heartfelt gratitude and profound respect that I stand here today, not only to celebrate Officer Rodman's courage and selflessness, but also recognize the values instilled in him. Nick's life reflects the strong foundation built by his parents, Linda and George Rodman. Individuals who exemplify integrity and dedication. Linda and George taught Nick and his siblings the most importance of always doing the right thing, even when it's not the easy thing. George, a retired LMPD officer, not only served this community, but served as an inspiration for both of his sons as they follow in his footsteps. Nick's brother Andrew beautifully captured these values, saying, "He taught me that the little things in life are just not little, that just are just that, little things. He taught me to be steadfast in my actions, but humble in my words. But most importantly, he taught me to always do the right thing, especially when it's not the easy thing." The values of the Rodman family continue to shine through Nick's widow, Ashley, and their children, Mason and Ellie, who Mason nearly took Ashley's arm off yesterday throwing ball with her. And I watched Ellie at track, and she is lightning fast. And it's no joke. Mason, a talented fourth grader, scholar athlete, is already showcasing his determination and drive that made his father proud. Ellie is an exceptional track star whose speed has everybody dreaming of her being in the Olympics already. Carries forward the energy and the spirit defined her dad. Ashley, your resilience and dedication inspire us all. Through the Nick Rodman Legacy Foundation, you have touched lives and carried forward the torch of service and community. We would also like to honor you today. It is my privilege to present you with the Serve Award, recognizing not only your contributions, but also the way your family continues to embody the values Nick lived here by every day. Ashley, in your own words, remind us what this park will symbolize. Nick was profound. To be from the south end of Louisville, having this park named after him means so much to our family. Nick is so missed every day. We carry the love we have for Nick and the grief losing him every day. The love and support from Louisville community naming the park in the honor of Nick helps our grieving hearts heal a little more and shows that his sacrifice is never forgotten. It means everything to us. So real quick, I'm going to hand you this award and this proclamation, and then I'll continue. Okay. So I'm going to step over here. So Ashley, this is the Serve Award that my district is doing for people who exemplify the values of the South End, and the proclamation that we give you from the Louisville Metro Council. Today, we send a message that Nick's sacrifice will never be forgotten, and that our community stands behind law enforcement. Windsor Park will now be known as the Nick Rodman Legacy Park. It will serve as a lasting tribute to Nick's life and his love for the South End of Louisville, a community proudly called home. It will also serve as a space that honors not just Nick, but all those who serve and sacrifice for our community. It will inspire future generations to live with courage, humility, steadfast dedication to do what is right. On behalf of District 25 and the South End of Louisville, we honor you, Ashley, Mason, Ellie, Linda, George, and the entire Rodman family. Thank you for allowing us the privilege of celebrating Nick's legacy, preserving his memory, and carrying forward the values he has so cherished. Maybe we all be inspired by his life and his family's unwavering strength and commitment. I thank you all. Thank you. You want to do a picture or something? Yeah. Let's go up here.
Councilwoman Chapel and Rui, I believe you've got a special guest.
Hello, everyone. Before I get to honoring Pastor Fields, I want to take a moment to just honor Councilor Rui. If you all don't know, the Streetery was offering a white flag shelter in the most recent cold snap that we saw. And when it was shut down, Councilor Rui really jumped into action in finding a new place to move that. She was instrumental in the day-to-day. I think I went every day, but I know that she was there a lot more than I was, working with Coalition for the Coalition for the Homeless when the water heater went out to get that back online in, I think, probably record timing for a water heater repair. One morning I brought over donuts and I walked in and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Councilor Rui, but you could tell that you hadn't slept the night before. And just to see that kind of selflessness, I do want to say that because I know a lot of times it's the work that we do that's outside of this chambers that's most meaningful. And I just want to give her credit for all of her work in making that shelter possible, but not only just saying, I'm going to set it up, but I'm going to help you run it. And I think that that's really important to point out. And like I said, we do things, whether it's police ride-alongs, overnights at the shelter, or homeless counts. We're out there day in and day out, and I just want to give her flowers while I have the microphone. But we're here today to honor. So right here we have Pastor James Fields, and when I took office, I didn't inherit a lot from, I'm going to say this endearingly to my friend Kevin Triplett, I didn't inherit a lot from his office. And but one of those documents was actually a report about the Jacobs neighborhood, a neighborhood report, and I said, this is actually really great. Who did this? Turns out it was this guy. So he not only moved his church into that community, but he made it a point to get to know the community and become a part of it. Pastor Fields has been wonderful every time that I have something in my district that I need, whether it was our Hispanic Town Hall all the way to our annual Derby Our Way event, which we're going to be having again this year on Monday, April 12th. Let's check social media. 16th, 14th. Monday, April 14th. Subscribe to our newsletters. So he's just been wonderful every single time that we need a space and opening his doors. And that's exactly what he did when we asked him if we could have a space for the shelter. And it was incredible. The first night, I think that there were maybe 4 individuals that came into the shelter. And the last night, I think that there were 26 individuals. And so this shelter ran just a few days, and it's incredible to see that need, but also the safe space that somebody had created for that community. I recall one gentleman who said, it was wonderful to have a place where I left my phone on my cot and I came back and it was still there. So having safe spaces that we can provide to people with dignity is so important. And so that's why we're honoring him today with a proclamation, and I'll go ahead and read it. To all whom these letters shall come, greetings. Know ye that the Louisville Metro Legislative Council hereby honors citizen James Fields in the opening of Sojourn Church Carlisle as an emergency shelter during severe winter weather conditions. Whereas Louisville experienced the highest amount of snowfall in one day since 1998 on January 5th, 2025, accompanied by extremely low temperatures, and whereas other emergency shelters faced closure, leaving unhoused individuals without shelter during these extreme weather conditions. And whereas, seeing the need, Pastor Fields, with the support and guidance of his church, codes and regulations, and various other community partners, which I know that we have here with us today, opened Sojourn Carlisle as an emergency shelter to provide safe and warm refuge. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Louisville Metro Council hereby honors James Fields in the use of Sojourn Church Carlisle as an emergency shelter during a time of great need. We hereby confirm this recognition with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining. And this is going over to you, Pastor Fields. So I want to say thank you, and I will give a plug. He's already gone through the process to make sure that he has an application in, so the next time this happens, they're ready to just open their doors. So we won't have to go through the red tape, and so we love to see that proactivity. And I'll hand it over to maybe Counselor Rui, and then we'll have Pastor James say a few words.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank Pastor Fields for stepping up on very short notice. I think we went from, oh my goodness, it got shut down, to we have something open in 6 hours. So I was thrilled to have him step up and to help find the resources to make the shelter actually happen. And thank you, Pastor Fields. I know it meant a lot to those folks who spent the night there. I was just touched by spending time with them and seeing people come in out of the cold, and the sense of community that they had to protect each other, and how people would come in the middle of the night and just get food for their friends who didn't feel safe coming in and leaving their possessions out. So thank you so much for that opportunity, and I'm glad to hear that you're working on getting set up with the proper permits, so it'll be a whole lot easier next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Yeah. Thank you for this recognition. I really am grateful to God, and I'm grateful to be able to be a part of the South End of Louisville, in my opinion, the best part of Louisville. And our church, Sojourn Carlisle, exists for the advancement of the gospel in South Louisville and beyond. So we take it serious where God has planted us, and we're really grateful. I have two colleagues here with me. So Sam Carroll is one of our oncoming deacons, and he was instrumental in helping us. So I really appreciate Sam. And then our associate pastor, Nick Wyrens, was very instrumental as well. And then my son, Luke, who's here. He was wondering if any judges were going to be here. I don't know if there's any judges, but if there are, wave at them, please. But we're grateful to be here and thankful for this proclamation. So thank you.
Come on up, everybody. Hey, long time no see.
Councilman Joseph and Councilwoman Parrish Wright, I believe you have a special guest tonight.
All right. Well, first I'd like to invite Cesar Garcia up here for a minute with me. When I am not the councilman of District 12, I am the teacher. I'm a teacher at Butler Traditional High School, and fortunate enough to be a advisor for the KY and Kuna organization at Butler. I know we've got some Y kids or Y staff on Metro Council, right? Is there anybody who's had? I know we've had a few. I thought, okay, so we had a few of those that have impacted Y. Doing this for 10 years, the Y Club is all about mock government, and KYA, it's all about state government and passing bills and running for office. And then for Kuna, we have like a mock United Nations per se, where every school picks a country, and then those that are feeling froggy enough run for office in front of 1,200 plus of their peers, and get up on stage. And I'm fortunate enough to get to work with this guy as his teacher, but also with KY and Kuna, and seeing Cesar Garcia go from the guy in the hallway who was contemplating months ago of, should I get involved, should I run for this position, to the guy who won a conference in front of 1,200 students. I'm just so honored and so proud of the work that he has done. And, I'm also fortunate to teach freshman civics and then juniors and seniors dual credit government. So seeing the growth over the years, certainly so proud of Cesar. So I will read the proclamation. To all who these letters shall come, greetings, know ye that the Louisville Metro Council hereby honors and recognizes Cesar Garcia whereas Caesar has represented himself, Butler Traditional High School, and his District 3 community in an exemplary fashion at the 2025 Kuna High School 2 Conference, and whereas students from across Kentucky gathered to simulate international diplomacy, build critical thinking skills, experience cultures from around the world, and engage with global issues, and whereas Mr. Garcia was elected by his peers to the office of Secretary General, the top position of the United Nations for the 2026 Kuna 2 Conference, the highest position available to participants. And whereas he is the first student at Butler Traditional High School to receive this honor, and now, therefore, in recognition of their outstanding contributions, we hereby confer the honor with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining in testimony whereof we have caused these letters to be made and the seal of the Louisville Metro government to be hereunto affixed. And Caesar, while he gave 2 riveting speeches, his slogan was, "I wouldn't want to be you if you didn't vote Garcia." You know, and 1,200 people, that's more than I think a lot of us can say that we've stood in front of. And so I think the world of them. And Councilwoman Parrish Wright, know that Butler is within your district, and also Caesar lives in your district, and I'll give you the floor to speak.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. I am excited to be a part of this, and I really appreciate you, Caesar. You are why I do this work. And Mr. Garcia, I'm up here in D.C. I apologize for not being there, but navigating our country from the federal level is important too. And I would love to see someone like you run for office. And slogans matter. And I wouldn't want to be anybody that's running against you. I appreciate this opportunity to welcome you. And this is why we do the work. Critical thinking, civics is the reason why I'm here. And I'm honored to have someone like you that is willing to take it a step further. Please keep going. We need you. We deserve better. We get there together was mine. But I want to see you keep going. Thank you.
All right. You got anything? You're welcome to talk if you want. You don't have to. All right.
First of all, thank you for this recognition. Thank you for Mr. Councilman Joseph, my family, and also my late father. That's who I wrote my speeches around, also my family. He is the person who really, I think, pushed me to get involved in, like, he was like an inspiration for me to get involved in, like, mock government since he was involved in the city. He has a business here in Louisville, in Lulu. It's a restaurant called Los Aztecas. And seeing, like, growing up, seeing him like operate the business and how involved he was in the city, I sort of got a view of the city and how he had an impact, because he knew, like, the mayor, he knew a lot of influential people around the city, and I sort of got inspired by that I really wanted to, make a change or do anything I could to do some sort of impact. And I got a knack for this KY and Kuna thing, and I decided to run. Like Mr. Councilman Joseph said, I really didn't plan on running at first. I wasn't confident in myself, but I persevered. I gained the confidence, and I managed to get the top position. So I'm really grateful to have that opportunity, and I'm really grateful for the support system that I have around me. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, are there any addresses to council?
Yes, sir, there are.
Let me remind those addressing the council to please refrain from the use of profanity or making derogatory statements towards council people. Madam, will you call it for speaker?
Alex Dietz.
Members of Metro Council, my name is Alex. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a teacher. I am a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. I was born here in Louisville, I went to school here, and I plan on raising my kids here. And like a lot of the people in the city of Louisville, we want it to be a better place, we want it to be a safer place. The vicious attacks on immigrant rights and trans rights by the Trump administration have affected folks in every single district that you all serve. We are here today to demand Sanctuary City Resolution be passed, declare JPS schools sanctuary locations, commit staff, security, and admin to noncompliance with ICE, protect the students in JPS schools from harassment and deportation, prohibit immigration detention centers from being built, prohibit police and city employees from questioning people about immigration status, and prohibit law enforcement from detaining people at the request of ICE. The city spends over half its budget on the police. Reallocating these funds from the budget is essential to protecting the immigrants in the communities that you all serve. I had the privilege of sitting in that back row at the last meeting of the year and watched a lot of you all congratulate each other on a job well done. You talked about how much you love serving your constituents. Well, we're all here to remind you that you serve the constituents, and the constituents here want this resolution to be passed. We demand a resolution be passed to declare Louisville a sanctuary city. We want you to craft the budget so that it shows that we stand with the immigrant community and not the police state.
Thank you. Elliott Hughes. Elliott Hughes.
My name is Elliott. I'm a resident of Metro Council District 22, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and a proud transgender man. Growing up trans in Eastern Kentucky wasn't easy. I dealt with bullying, isolation, and dismissiveness from my classmates, educators, and members of my family. This forced me into the closet, closed all doors to medical treatment, and led to my long-term struggles with depression and suicidal ideation. I knew who I was and what I needed to be safe, fulfilled, and happy, but that care was kept from me. I am not speaking lightly when I say I am lucky to be here today. My story is not unique. According to the Trevor Project, a nonprofit that runs a suicide hotline for LGBTQ people, 46% of trans people aged 13 to 24 have seriously considered suicide within the past year. These numbers are backed up by a 2022 study published by the NIH, who also found that trans youth who receive gender-affirming care are 60% less likely to experience serious depression symptoms. What I and other trans folks experience as kids is not inevitable. Trans kids who receive support from their caregivers, educators, doctors, and local legislatures are able to not just survive, but thrive. What I'm asking you, as Metro Council members, is to step up to protect these kids as you would any other kid, because trans kids are still kids. Trans kids deserve to be safe, not cannon fodder for a culture war. They deserve to have the medical decisions made by them, their parents, and their doctors respected, not litigated by politicians who have never met them. They deserve to join extracurriculars and play sports without invasive and discriminatory policies interfering. They deserve to go to the bathroom where they feel comfortable without the fear of harassment or violence. Surely, you all believe these things are a given for cisgender, that is to say, non-trans children. So why are these issues still up for debate for trans children? The brutal truth is that our state and federal politicians have decided trans kids' lives are worth less than cis kids. There is no way around it. That is what they are saying through the regressive, harmful policies targeting an already vulnerable group. As a trans kid, I was put in the humiliating spot of begging for my existence and humanity to be respected. As an adult, I am not begging anymore. I am demanding that those who are supposed to represent me in government do their jobs and fight for all of their constituents. I am demanding not only because this is a moral imperative, but because I am in a position to demand. According to the Fairness Campaign, 71% of Kentuckians are against anti-trans legislation. This includes people from the reddest of red counties and certainly includes a majority of the people who vote for your council seats. We are many, we are organizing, and we demand the safety of all kids in the Commonwealth. Specifically, we demand noncompliance from JCPS, U of L, and Louisville Metro Council in response to the hateful, overreaching, unconstitutional executive orders of the Trump administration. We demand y'all do everything in your power to protect the rights of trans people in the city, and we demand your respect for our shared humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Weinstein.
Thank you. In March 2023, Senator Karen Berg stood before Kentucky lawmakers and gave a heart-wrenching testimony about her son, Henry, a trans activist who died by suicide a few months before. She pleaded with lawmakers not to pass SB 150, the bill banning gender-affirming care for Kentucky youth. And yet, after hearing the pain of a parent's worst nightmare, 105 out of 138 of her colleagues still voted to pass that hateful legislation. I have not lost my child to suicide, but I have come terrifyingly close. And I live with that fear every single day of my life. One of the things that has helped us survive is gender-affirming care that we now have to leave the state to access due to SB 150. Leaving the state is a privilege many Kentuckians do not have. This is life-saving care. We just heard statistics about the percentage of trans people who have considered suicide and attempted it. But access to gender-affirming care dramatically reduces these risks. A study published by JAMA found that trans youth who receive gender-affirming care have a 60% lower odds of depression and 73% lower odds of suicidal thoughts or self-harm. This isn't just about health care, it is about survival. And the cruelty continues. Today, Kentucky lawmakers have overturned the ban on conversion therapy. They have stripped away Medicaid reimbursement for gender-affirming care, just to name a few attacks. Right now, trans families alongside other targeted peoples are living under constant attack from state-sponsored terror and repression. The goal is not just to limit access to care and services. It is an attempted erasure of people's humanity. We refuse to let this happen. Trans rights, like all other human rights, are working-class issues. These attacks don't just hurt groups currently in the crosshairs. When lawmakers strip away rights, when they make life harder for any group, the working class suffers most. If you fail to stand against these attacks, you are failing the majority of your constituents. My kid has said that one of the most powerful things beating back despair is seeing their community fighting for their right to exist. You can be a part of this fight by standing up to these hateful attacks and creating policy to protect your people. Because courage is contagious. So I ask you, speak out, show your face, stand up, be brave. Because if you leave some of us behind, you're leaving all of us behind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues and members of the galley, three great speakers have spoke about trans rights, and I stand with you on those issues. Recognize this so that our council rules are such that they only allow 3 speakers to speak on the same topic. So if there's anyone else who's going to be speaking on trans rights, unfortunately, under the rules, it will not be allowed to be permitted. So.
He spoke about.
No, and I'm just saying it, moving forward, if there's anyone else speaking. We've had in the past where folks sign up under different topics, and so rules are rules. And so that's, not calling anyone out at this point. We're going to call the next speaker up.
Abigail Muchili.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Metro Council members and my fellow Louisville residents. My name's Abby, and I'm here tonight as just another neighbor who cares deeply about this city and the people in it. Right now, I'm asking you to stand with our immigrant communities by making Louisville a sanctuary city. Because Louisville's stronger when everyone feels safe, respected, and included. Let's be real. Immigrants are not some other group. They're the folks who work beside us, whose kids go to school with ours, who own businesses we love, and who make this city what it is. They're part of us. And when they're living in fear, it hurts all of us. What I'm asking for is simple. An ordinance which stipulates that Louisville police and city employees won't act as ICE's chauffeurs into our community. That we will not use local resources to deport our neighbors, and that people's information stays private and kept safely away from ICE, DOJ, or any other agency that tries to dictate how we govern our community. This isn't about breaking laws, it's about protecting people. When immigrants are afraid to participate in society, call the police, report crimes, or go to the hospital, everyone is less safe. Sanctuary policies build trust. They make sure crimes get solved, that workers are treated fairly, and that families stay together safe in their own homes. Mass deportations don't make us safer. They just spread fear, hurt our economy, and rip apart the fabric of our communities. Louisville can do better. In closing, I urge you, the Metro Council, to adopt this ordinance as soon as possible. Let's be the city we know that we can be, and send the message loud and clear: in Louisville, we take care of our own, and that is all of our own. Thank you.
Thank you. Shonda Lee. Shonda Lee. Shonda Lee.
I stand before you today not just as a concerned citizen, but as a voice for accountability, a word that has seemed to have lost its meaning in this city when it comes to police and leadership. We have the facts in front of us. The OIG's findings made it clear the officers involved in the death of Omari Cryer were wrong. Yet, despite this, Chief Paul Humphrey stands in front of the news cameras and tells the public that he stands behind his officers. How? How do we claim change when the truth is always ignored? Accountability isn't about convenience. It isn't about protecting an image or maintaining control. It's about justice. And we can't and won't get justice until y'all show some accountability and hold yourselves accountable. How do we, and when I say we, I mean y'all, tell the community that transparency matters when leadership refuses to acknowledge their wrongdoings? How do we, and when I say we, I mean y'all, tell the families like Omari Cryer that justice exists when leadership is willing to look past the facts? How does this city move forward when we continue the same cycles of excuses instead of accountability? Like, how do we do that? And let's not forget the Department of Justice found this police department guilty of systematic failures leading to a consent decree. This was not speculation. This was a federal investigation that confirmed what the community has known for so many years: a lack of accountability at the highest level. Did somebody say something? So I asked Chief Humphrey and every official defending this, how many more investigations, reports, and grieving families does it have to take for you to stop protecting the misconduct that's been going around in this city for so many years? Like, I'm 45 years old, and I've been seeing this since I was a little girl, and I ain't seen not a lick of justice or accountability in this compassionate city ever in my life. This is why we need the OIG, and more importantly, we need Ed Harness to stay in his role that he is highly qualified for. Removing Ed Harness will be a deliberate move to weaken oversight and accountability. Y'all need to fix it.
Thank you. Antonio Brown.
I would say it's, I would say it's good. I love to be here right now, but it seems like every time I come here, we have to defend our community. instead of uplifting him. I'm here to speak of the truth about Omari Croyer case and the corruption of the leadership that followed. The year was 2022 in May. A scared Omari Croyer ran for his life from a U.S. Marshal that resulted in the U.S. Marshals murdering him in the alley as he jumped over a fence. But the check 1-2 is, well, the check is the report from the Attorney General that confirmed the misconduct in the case within the LMPD. But our chief, Paul Humphrey, that I personally hope to see a change from, refused to acknowledge the report. How can we get real change if no one in law enforcement is willing to be held accountable? This is why the system itself is broken, why Louisville is being portrayed in the entry of a federal consent decree by the Department of Justice, founding of a pattern of unconstitutional policing, excessive force, and a lack of accountability. I'm asking the chief in the rest of our community leaders, how good is a consent decree if no one's is willing to follow it? How good is a reform if no one's going to acknowledge it? How many lawsuits are we going to pay out before we stop defending bad policing? Omari Croyer should be here right now. His family should not be fighting for answers. Our community, we should not have community leaders that's denying the facts, the reports, and the demands from the community that they swore to uphold and serve. And to the two Metro Council women that came to the bishop's table and said they ain't radical like us. We're not radical either. We're revolutionaries. Please put some respect on our name. Thank you.
Thank you. Nisha Johnson. Jamison, I'm sorry, ma'am. Nisha Jamison.
Good evening. I stand before you all as a citizen of this community, born and raised for 42 plus years. I'm standing here today to tell you all why the Inspector General's office is important, why a consent decree is important. 5/20/22, Omari Croyer was shot and killed. June, I started asking questions. A year and a half, I reached out to the councilwoman whose district this took place in. Till this day, no return phone call. We should be asking questions when a man is gunned down in our district. When a family reaches out, we should have questions being answered, reaching out saying, this is what I'm looking into, this is what I found out. We get to December of 2023. LMPD was found in violation of the Open Records Act because I filed multiple requests looking into the case. They were found in violation. You get to January 23rd of this year. Chief Paul Humphrey gets on the news and gives a response to the findings, and he does it egregiously, he does it very distastefully, he does it disrespectfully, and he also became not just the chief, the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor. Omari Croyer never stood before a judge. It was a warrant for alleged charges. Had he been before a judge and a jury and found guilty, then he should do his sentence, serve his time, get anger management, but that day never came. Instead, we got on the news and said, had he not done? And so I want you all to think about something. When you heard Chief Humphrey on the news, he said he would make the entire case public record. I haven't. How many of you all in this room took the time to get the record to see what really was said in those findings? I'll tell you right now that if anyone had took the time to do that, everybody should be in an uproar, because the truth of the matter is when Michael Marcel fired those 2 deadly shots to shoot and kill Omari Croyer was unarmed. Chief Paul Humphrey also stated that Omari was running with the gun in his right hand. Well, everybody saw the video when it came out because it became worldwide news because we were trying to avoid another Breonna Taylor situation. Omari Croyer was not running with the gun in his right hand. The gun was in his left hand, and when he jumped the fence, he tossed it when they said drop the gun. But yet we have Omari Croyer, who is dead and gone, whose children are being labeled in Jefferson County public school systems as ADHD, They don't have ADHD. They have PTSD because the people we taught them as a family to trust, to protect, and serve them are the same people that took their father's life. So what I challenge you all in this room today with is, number one, we need to make sure that when we're partnering with agencies, we understand what the training looks like. LMPD is not trained like U.S. Marshals. U.S. Marshals are trained to shoot to kill, a 3-shot kill, where Omari died in 2. We also need to make sure that when we're pursuing warrants, they had a warrant, they said, right? Why did they not knock on the door? I'm sorry, but he was shot and killed in Louisville's West End where half of the murders take place. If I am on a porch and officers come with guns drawn, do you think I'm looking to see the writing on the shirt or looking at a barrel of a gun? I'm looking at a barrel of a gun and I'm a run.
Thank you. Vanessa Jameson.
Hello. I stand here today as a citizen of this community with several concerns about gun violence that is completely out of control in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm angered at the fact that we have a standard in our community due to a lack of accountability. When law enforcement fails to hold their accountability and the fact sets a standard to others in this community and the murder rate continues to go up. As the grieving aunt of Omari Cryer, I refuse to sit back and be silent. We want a better community. We want trust. Then we must have law enforcement and agencies partnerships that not only hold themselves accountable, but have integrity. The gun violence in this community will not end until we lead by example and change in policies. I am asking each you to be diligent and seeking changing in the laws that we're supposed to protect, but if it's the law that's killing us. Those names never apply. How many more Omari Cryers and Breonna Taylors do we have to have before we do something different? They set a standard. When they kill us and enough is enough, you guys really need to hold people accountability, please.
Thank you. Thought you were saying something, sir. Sorry. Zanasia Whaley. Zanasia Whaley. Stephen Comstock.
Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, good evening. My name is Stephen Comstock, and I'm a member of District 14. I am here tonight to speak about public safety and to ask for your help on this matter. As you may all have seen on the various news outlets, our house has been struck again by a vehicle for the 4th time. This marks 4 times in a span of 25 years. The intersection that is the topic of this safety discussion is West Pages Lane and Devonshire Drive. This is a residential neighborhood and it is treated like a main thoroughfare. 3 of the 4 houses at this intersection have been struck 7 times over the past 25-year period. The speed limits on the streets on which I reside are 35 miles an hour on West Pages and 25 miles an hour on Devonshire. I'm here tonight on behalf of the neighborhood and the community to plead for help and assistance with this matter.
Brayden,
We have seen multiple fatalities and even more injuries, with the last one being, thankfully, only a broken wrist. This is an issue that I have had to live with for many years. We are looking at a total of just under $100,000 in repairs over the years. The first time was around $7,000. The second time was around $23,000. The third time around $25,000. And we're still receiving estimates this time. They're talking close to $35,000. We had previously reached out to the former Councilwoman Cindy Fowler. The Councilwoman, I believe, wasted taxpayer dollars implementing small changes that had no impact on safety to the area. I will not go into more detail than that with my interactions with her. I have met with Councilwoman Bast and have had a lot of faith that we can create a safer community for the families and neighbors in the area. I do have pictures of the damages to our property from the last 3 accidents. One in 2011 was a fatality. The one in 2016 was, I believe, a 4-injury accident where a mother had 3 children in the car when it hit our house at 45 to 50 miles an hour, sent all of them to the hospital. This one, just a broken wrist when they hit the wall. I will be happy to share all of those with you via email if you would like. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I've spoken with my 2 neighbors about this and that have been impacted with the vehicles hitting their house, and we are all asking for help. We are asking for help to make our roads safer, especially our intersection. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this with you all tonight.
Thank you. Mr. President, that concludes the addresses to council.
Next, we have approval of the council minutes for the regular meeting of March 13th, 2025. Are there any corrections or deletions? Could I have a motion? The minutes are properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, the minutes are approved as written. Next, we have approval of committee minutes. For the following committee meetings, we have the regular committee of the whole, March 13th, the regular planning and zoning committee, March 18th, the regular labor and economic development committee, March 18th, regular public works committee, March 18th, the regular government oversight, audit, and appointments committee, March 18th, the regular equity, community affairs, housing, health, and education committee, March 19th, the regular appropriations committee, March 19th, the regular public safety committee, March 19th, the regular ad hoc committee on efficiencies of boards and commissions, March 19th, the regular parks and sustainability committee, March 20th, the regular budget committee, March 20th. Are there any corrections or deletions? May I have a motion and a second? It's properly before us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, the minutes are approved as written. Our next order of business is the consent calendar. The consent calendar comprises of item 19 through 26. Are there any additions or deletions?
President Ackerson.
What's that?
Yes, for the consent calendar, I would like make a motion to invoke Rule 7.05E for item 27 to move that back to consent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any objections to moving that back to consent? Councilwoman Chapel, you object? With an objection, at the end of the day, it's going to stay on old business. Madam Clerk, a second reading of the consent calendar.
The following legislation was forwarded from the Appropriation Committee. Item 19, an ordinance appropriating $28,500 from neighborhood development funds in the following manner: $2,000 from District 15, $1,500 each from Districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 17, 19, and 26, $1,250 from District 22, $750 from District 20, and $500 each from Districts 13, 21, 23, 24 through the Office of Management Budget to Kentucky Shakespeare, Inc. for the costs associated with the 2025 Shakespeare in the Parks Tour. The following legislation was forwarded from the Budget Committee. Item 20, an ordinance amending ordinance number 100, Series 2024, relating to the fiscal year 2024-2025 operating budget by transferring $26,000 from the Neighborhood Development Fund, District 2, to the Louisville Metro Council General Operations District 2. The following legislation was forwarded from the Government Oversight and Appointments Committee. Item 21, appointment of Miguel Rodriguez to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Term expires June 30, 2028. Item 22, appointment of Leslie Schaefer to the Greater Louisville Lodging Management District Board. Term expires May 1st, 2026. Item 23, appointment of Elaine Duncan to the Land Bank Authority Board. The term expires February 28, 2028. Item 24, appointment of Amy Brooks to the New Louisville Review Overlay District Committee. Term expires February 26, 2026. The following legislation was forwarded from the Parks and Sustainability Committee. Item 25, a resolution renaming the Windsor Park to Nick Rodman Legacy Park. Item 26, a resolution authorizing the mayor to, on the behalf of Metro government, to accept the donation of conservation easement to property owned by Mary Ann Tyler, located at 5801 and 5900 Belltown Road in Louisville, Jefferson County. Read in full.
May I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
It's properly been moved. Let's have a roll call vote.
I need a Council Member Parrish Wright,
Yes.
Council Member
Pizzantini?
Piagentini, thank you. Okay, Council Member Mulvey Woolridge.
Yes.
Gonna let her vote.
Yes.
Oh, that was on your computer, sorry, ma'am. There we go. I need the screen, please. Mr. President, we have 23 yes votes.
The consent calendar passes. The next item is old business. Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 27.
One moment. An ordinance appropriating $13,300 from District 20 Neighborhood Development Funds to the Louisville Metro Police Department for 2 flock cameras to be installed in the Dunbar Springs and Silver Oaks subdivision. Read in full.
Councilman Parker, this came out of your committee. You have the floor, madam.
Oh, we didn't.
Oh, got a motion. And the motion is second. Now it's before us. Councilwoman Parker, this came out of your committee. You have the floor, madam.
Yes, thank you. This item came to us from old business because of a present vote, and it's mainly just for 2 flock cameras in District 20 to help prevent car thefts. And if Councilman Benson wants to speak to it, I will give him the floor.
Councilman Benson, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Over the last several years, try to pay attention to constituents. I don't know if anybody's ever had their house broken in. About 10 years ago, our house was broken in, and it made my wife kind of a nut. She worries about going in the house and stuff, and worrying about. And so one of the things we try to do is help people in the neighborhoods feel safe. And these flock cameras, whether they're a good deal or not, it's a way. If somebody comes into a neighborhood that's not normally there, and they can see the license plate, if something happens, they have some suspects they can try to track down and maybe stop people from doing it. And then maybe if they see the cameras, they might not do anything. You know, if you can keep people from going to jail by realizing they can get caught, that's a good thing. And so this is for 2 neighborhoods. We've probably got them in 6 or 7 neighborhoods now. And I was thinking maybe someday if this was a good thing to help keep some neighborhoods safe, it could be part of the budget. But I don't know if that'll ever happen. But I'm supposed to be the best I can for my district and help them be safe. So we're paying for half and they're paying for half. Thank you, Mr. President.
See no other speakers in the queue. This is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please open the roll.
Councilmember Parrish Wright?
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge?
Yes.
BGT.
I'm ready. He voted on his own, sir. Just wonder if she's there. You got my screen changed. Thank you. Mr. President, you have 23 yes votes and 2 present votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 28.
An ordinance appropriating $10,000 from District 26 Neighborhood Development Funds through the Office of Management and Budget to the Tommy Elliott Fund for Community Leadership for sponsorship of the 2025 Storyteller event. Read in full.
Motion second. The item is brought before us. Councilman Parker, this came out of your committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Actually, the request came to your district, and you generously gave us to a sponsorship for $10,000, and it's to the Tommy Elliott Foundation. It will be at the Muhammad Ali Center on Thursday, April 10th, and it is a fun event, storytelling, but it's more importantly, it's a fundraiser for Brightside, the Healing Place, the Louisville Orchestra, the ACE Project, the Pete Foundation, and Wilderness Louisville, and there may be a few more that weren't listed. But in that event, I think it's on old business to see if there was any council members that wanted to add, but we talked about this in Committee of the Whole. If you do want to add, you have to add at a sponsorship level. The sponsorship levels are at $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and $25,000. If 2 members wanted to contribute, they would have to pool together and contribute for one of the sponsorship levels. I hope I made myself clear on that.
Any further discussion? I don't have her in my queue.
Mr. President, I would like to add $1,000 to that.
Okay, and I apologize, the queue's not come up for me, so at this point, Councilwoman McCraney?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to add
I was on at
$1,000
28.
because not only do I support all of
Now it's coming up.
the entities and organizations you mentioned, Councilwoman, but Tommy Elliott was a dear friend. And so for that, I just want to make certain that this goes off without a hitch, and I'm sure it will be. But I just wanted to make a small donation in his name. Thank you.
That's nice.
Seeing no one else in the
Mi-
queue?
Mr. President,
What's that?
can I just clarify? So will each one of them be giving at the $1,000 individually? So you'll have 2 seats, and I just want to let you know that if you are going to attend the event, I'll be reaching out to see who will be sitting in your seats, or you can just tell me to donate your seats back.
Thank you, and I will be donating my seat to a District 7 resident.
Okay? And I'll reach out and get that in. Thank you so much.
So at this point, I believe we have 2 additional $1,000.
Yes.
So this is, can I have a motion for the amended? Second motion. The item's brought before us. All those in favor of the amendments?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, the amendment passes. So this is now voting a $12,000 contribution to the Tommy Elliott Fund. Madam Clerk, will you open the roll?
Councilmember Parrish Wright
Yes.
and Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge.
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item 29.
An ordinance appropriating $10,800 from neighborhood development funds in the following manner: $3,000 from District 21, $2,000 from District 15, $1,500 from District 3, $1,000 from District 6, 8, 9, and 13, and $300 from District 24 through the Office of Management and Budget to South Louisville Community Ministries for costs associated with the annual Families Helping Families Dinner as amended, read in full.
Items proper before us. Councilwoman Parker, this came out of your committee. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you again. I believe this is also on old business to see if there's any council members that would like to offer any additional funding.
Councilwoman Rury, this is your ordinance. I would tender the floor to you.
Thank you. So this is South Louisville Community Ministries. This is their 50th anniversary fundraiser dinner. And their original ask was for $12,000. Right now we are at $10,800, so we only need $1,200 to fill out this NDF. So I hope you guys can support us on that one.
Councilman Batshon, and then Councilman Winkler.
If I haven't already done it, I'll do 600.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk? Councilman Winkler.
250.
The balance, 350.
What's our balance after? So
So-
600, 250.
Still needed is $350.
It sounds like District 5 is for 350, which will complete your.
That's correct? Is that
Okay.
Thank you.
We have the amended ordinance before us. All those in favor say aye. Any opposition?
One moment, sir.
Aye.
One moment. No, one moment. Let me just go. Still needed amount. Why is it
So
messing up?
850.
Yeah, you're fine. It added up right. It's just
No,
there's something
it
wrong.
can't be 1,600. That's
It's $1,200, so it,
12 is what was needed, right?
yes, yes,
So we are there.
yes. Thank
So,
you.
Motion for the amended ordinance.
That's what, thank you.
Second, brought before us. All those in favor of the amended ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that passes. So now we have the roll call for the amended ordinance. Please open the roll.
Councilmember Parrish Wright,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge,
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item 30.
An ordinance repealing and reenacting Section 130.01 of the Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, LMCO, regarding prohibitions of mask wearing. Read in full.
Councilman Simon, this came out of your committee. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This ordinance was brought upon by Councilwoman McCraney. Councilwoman McCraney, would you like to speak to that?
Councilman McCraney, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. President. There is an amendment on the system that has been there for a few weeks, and I would like that version to be considered tonight. Well.
Second.
Great, thank you. Before we actually do the amendment, though, I'm assuming you all thought I was making the amendment, so it's already been, well, fine, great. It's been motioned and seconded. So I want to go ahead and ask Ms. Alice, the Assistant County Attorney, to please speak to the differences between what was old and on the system versus what we should be discussing tonight as a form of an amendment.
Yes, ma'am. This is Alice Lyon, Assistant County Attorney. And the differences between the version filed in December and the amendment that you're looking at tonight are there are 4 new whereas clauses. It starts with the first full whereas clause on page 2. In section 1, the statistical reporting was annual in the version filed in December, and now it has moved to quarterly reporting that will begin 90 days after the effective date. The report now includes some additional data, including the time of the encounter, the block number of the street where the encounter happened, whether or not the person was searched for weapons, and any data that LMPD would choose to add into the system themselves. And then Section 2 is a conforming amendment. The current parade licensing sections in LMCO allow mask wearing only with a parade permit that specifically addresses that. So this conforming amendment would make it possible for the base part of the ordinance to go ahead regardless of parade permits. In Section 3, we just moved the penalties to the proper LMCO penalty section that had been in the body of the main ordinance, and we pulled those apart. But the penalties are the same.
Councilwoman McCraney.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. I just want to say that this particular ordinance was put in place because I attended a neighborhood meeting that was called by the chair and vice chair of the Public Safety Committee at that time. And I applaud them for having a meeting in a district, in the community. And it was so well attended and it was well done. And as a result of that meeting, because so many constituents spoke out against having a ban on masks, I spoke with several of them after the meeting and then subsequently spoke with several key people in the community and those who were concerned about having a ban on masks, and work with the county attorney's office to write up legislation that I thought would be fair and just for people who have upper respiratory diseases and who want to freely wear masks because of some of those health issues, but not only that, but want to wear masks in general, and who do not want to feel that they are profiled when they do wear the mask. And so for those reasons, because of the overwhelming response that we received during that meeting, this particular ordinance is being presented. I hope that each council member will look at the details of the ordinance to see that it really was meant to be a friendly ordinance that suggests freedom to wear whatever you want to wear, including a mask. And so I put it forth again based on the overwhelming response during that particular meeting, and I ask for everyone's support. Thank you.
Councilwoman Parrish Wright, you're next in the queue, and you have the floor, madam.
Thank you. And I just want to say that I share the sentiments of Councilwoman McCraney. I was there at that public safety meeting, and I'm glad that it was called. And everyone we heard from, no one said they wanted it reenacted, but we know it's already on the books. This amendment, this ordinance doesn't take away tools that the police use. And because I often advocate, it's important to say, I'm not saying that people should be committing crimes with masks because I'm advocating for these changes. I'm worried about the racial profiling and the policing. And for some reason, my advocacy is always confused with criminality. And that's not what I'm saying. No one should commit a crime wearing a mask. The issue is that we have a problem in our policing where people have been profiled and people also have expressed that they have health concerns. So this is an update to something that was put in place because of the Ku Klux Klan and the things that they do, but it needs to be updated to the current 2025 times that we're dealing with, pre, post, during COVID and a pandemic that really made people more conscious of wearing masks. So I just want to compel my colleagues to consider that we have a lot of things on our books that are archaic and need to be updated. This is an attempt to do that, and I commend Councilwoman McCraney for taking the words of the people and trying to make it make sense, because everybody that reached out to my office and that came to that meeting wanted something that wouldn't make them feel like they couldn't wear their mask in certain situations, or that they would be profiled, or their kids or someone they know may be profiled. So this gives a clear accounting. And I just want to say that we approved the $300,000 allotment to this group that is doing a test project basically to tell us if our police are biased. We know that the reports have said that they can be biased, and they have been biased. We were quick to approve that $300,000. This makes sure that we have something on our books that says we don't want people profiled, and it tracks how people are arrested and related cases that are related to masks. No one should be committing a crime with masks, but those of us who choose to wear masks should not be put in more danger because we choose to wear masks for our health and safety. All right, that's it. It's an update to something that happened in the 80s, I believe, that was enacted. It was a good thing that it was enacted. It needs to be updated for the current times of 2025. Thank you.
Councilman Rui, you were next in the queue.
Thank you. I will be voting in support of this ordinance. When this was first brought up that we were going to be enforcing the mask ordinance, I had a long email discussion with a constituent who's in his 80s and was already being stopped by people telling him he was not allowed to wear a mask. There are many people in our community who choose to wear masks for a variety of health reasons. It may be that they're trying to protect other people in their family from infection. We don't know. And to have the mask ban as it stands right now is simply a recipe for profiling. And it makes me extremely nervous that it could be used in that way. What Councilwoman McCraney has crafted here is benign, and it helps to enforce the idea that we do not want masks being worn to conceal your identity as part of a crime, but it is okay to wear a mask to protect your health or the health of others. How many of us have felt kind of down in the weather and we have to go to a meeting and we went and we wore a mask? This is normal in our society today, and we should not face the possibility of being criminalized, targeted for it. So I will be voting in support of Councilwoman McCraney's amendment. Thank you.
Councilman Leninger, you're next in the queue. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I will also be voting in support of this amendment and this ordinance. I don't think it's a perfect bill. I don't like the escalation of penalties, but I recognize that's an understanding that we are trying to target criminal behavior, and that it's sort of a compromise for passage. Let it never be said that I am disinterested in compromise. I have seen members of this body wear masks when they were under the weather. I attended a Civilian Review and Accountability Board meeting with Councilwoman Hawkins. Councilwoman Hawkins wore a mask because she was trying to keep people well. She was trying not to harm her constituents, her members of her community. I think that we need to consider whether or not this is good public policy to not have carve-outs and to not understand that if we're going to have a mask ordinance and we're concerned about criminal behavior, let's keep it to criminal behavior. And so I will be voting in support of this.
Councilwoman McCraney, you're next in the queue.
I just want to thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to point out that the KKK has been brought up, and I absolutely believe that during that time it was the right thing to do to try to prohibit any type of intimidation that any certain group would were actually committing at that time. But this ordinance does not prohibit the KKK from coming into our city and wearing a mask. They will still be able to wear a mask today with the mask ban, because you can't single out one particular organization and say you can't wear a mask. If I could have done that, I certainly would have put that in this particular ordinance, but constitutionally we could not do that. So I wanted to make that particular portion clear. And I also want to make clear that in this ordinance, it talks about if you are wearing a mask and you are caught wearing a mask while in the process of committing a crime, those penalties will certainly be placed upon you. So those two elements are certainly important parts of this particular ordinance that I want everyone to consider. Thank you.
Councilman Winkler, you're next to the queue, and you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. And if it's, I have a question for the sponsor, if she does not mind me asking a question. And that's basically, I'm trying to understand with the amendment by substitution here, I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. The difference from the current law, right, which outlaws masks entirely. The section here where we talk about, it shall be unlawful to wear a mask for a substantial portion covering your face as a personal disguise, whether complete for the purpose of avoiding identification or recognition during the commission of a crime, or the concealment, flight, or escape when charged with arrested for a criminal offense. And then it goes on to speak to the peace officers shall not stop or detain an individual solely on the basis of wearing a face covering. So my question really is partially, I guess, about B, and then subsequently sort of the statistical reporting, all of which I agree with. Do you envision that LMPD, under this, and this is where I'm trying to sort of square the circle between B and A, could they stop somebody that they suspect is about to commit a crime who's concealing their identity?
Absolutely. This ordinance does not prohibit the police from doing their job. In any ordinary scenario, if a LMPD officer suspects someone committing a crime, whether they're wearing a mask or not, it is their right and their obligation to stop that person, to confront them, or whatever their policies and procedures are. So this does not prohibit them from stopping. But what we don't want is profiling, and that is the language that most of the constituents were talking about. I want to be able to wear a mask, but I don't want to be profiled at the same time. So we were careful and intentional in writing this ordinance to suggest that you can wear a mask, but if you are caught wearing a mask in the midst of committing a crime, then there's additional penalties for you.
Thank you. And could I ask the sponsor a follow-up question, please? Can you, and again, if this was covered, I apologize, I stepped out to go to the bathroom for just a second, but why is Section 2 struck?
What portion?
Section 2, it shall be unlawful for any person wearing a mask or hood in connection with a parade or public assembly not to remove the mask at the conclusion of the parade. I don't know if you can speak to that or if Alice can speak to that.
I'm going to throw this to the Assistant County Attorney for the purpose of the explanation. She could probably do a better job than I.
This is Alice Lyon again, Assistant County Attorney. And our current parade and protest permitting section in Chapter 100 states that if you've got a permit that allows mask wearing in the parade, that once the parade is over, then that permission is gone. And so if Section 1 were to be enacted, you wouldn't need the parade piece. They wouldn't dovetail anymore. So that's why Section 2 is there, is to conform with what would happen if Section 1 were enacted.
Thank you. And then, Mr. President, if I could just make a comment then. So it seems to me what we've done here is, originally when the discussion, and I was at the public meeting, and I think while we were at the public meeting, the administration that day had proposed updating the existing mask ban ordinance with things like public health exceptions, age exceptions. When I read this, it strikes me that we're sort of functionally doing the same thing, but coming at it from the opposite direction, right? So where the current ban bans it and says, but here's where it's okay. This says it's okay, but here's where it's not okay. But functionally, you get to the same thing. And so I applaud your efforts there and think that it's something that I can support.
Thank you.
Councilman Piagentini, you're next to the queue, and you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, and I apologize that I can't be there. Let me explain why I can't be in support of this. So, first of all, just to clarify something my colleague stated, you cannot draft a law that says only this group of people cannot wear a mask and only this group of people can. But make no mistake of it, this law, if we change it the way it is currently being presented, would allow the Klan to walk right down Main Street with their hoods on, and there's nothing we could do about it. Absolutely nothing. They could wear their hoods and walk through any residential neighborhood in this community, and we'd be able to do absolutely nothing. Because in order for this to kick in, they have to first commit a crime. If they're marching down the street, they have not committed a crime. I realize that my colleagues went to that public meeting and heard the folks there. Good. I go to my church. I go to my grocery store. I walk all around my community. I have heard overwhelmingly from the people that I represent that they object to people being able to wear masks in the public sphere, with one exception, and that is for their health. That's not what this does, okay? And not to mention, there is precisely zero examples of anybody being cited under the current mask ordinance if they are wearing a mask for health reasons. So I think that is not a realistic concern. But what do we have? We have healthy people across this city wearing masks and committing crimes. And I think it is a reasonable thing to say as a society, if you are operating in the public, right, not in your own private house or not whatever you do in private, but if you are going into a place of public accommodation, we make certain requirements. For example, that you can't discriminate. And so I think it's reasonable to say that you also must be unmasked, okay, that people should be able to identify who you are. And the last thing I'll say about the concerns related to discrimination. Many of the people that have spoke in favor of this reporting which is not scientifically derived, which simply gives us raw data without putting it in context. Many of those same council people voted against the actual $300,000+ grant to a scientific organization that we are paying a lot of money to look at discrimination across LMPD activities. So it's hard for me to take that seriously when many others voted against that contract. That contract, related to any law we enact, will ensure LMPD is working and letting us know if there are issues with discrimination. So again, I would encourage everybody to vote against this. I know my constituents were very clear. They want to see less of this capability. And I can tell you, I have not spoken to one member of LMPD that thinks adopting this is a good idea. and we need to continue fighting crime in this city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Purvis, you are next in the queue, and you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to call the question.
Motion to call the question has been called. Madam Clerk, this is not debatable, so I would say open the, we can do a voice vote.
Mr. President, can I just get a point of order? I don't think we actually voted to adopt the amendment.
That's right, we have not. Would you care to withdraw that, calling the question?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. That would mean the next in the queue is Councilwoman McCraney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the passion that my colleague brings to this debate. I do want to say, however, that nothing in this ordinance prohibits LMPD from fighting crime. So the notion that you would cloud this ordinance by stating that you want them to continue to fight crime, it has nothing to do with this ordinance. No one, particularly this councilwoman, wants LMPD to be impeded from doing their job. In fact, I also want to state that you mentioned the $300,000 contract and that those who are for this ordinance voted against that contract. I would argue that if anyone voted against the contract, it could be for several other reasons. It has nothing to do with the fact that we don't want or we don't believe we don't want LMPD to be, we don't want to look at LMPD and whether or not discrimination is actually occurring in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know really that anyone would need a $300,000 contract to consider the fact that discrimination has gone on in Louisville, Kentucky. Just look at some of the incidents that have occurred in the last several years. So I really am taken aback by the whole notion that this ordinance is not allowing LMPD to fight crime. The two don't go together. This ordinance will suggest, however, more even deeply than the original one, that LMPD is allowed to monitor any criminal behavior, and we are suggesting that they would move forward if they saw activity to act upon it. And not only that, but in the reporting section, that guarantees the public who's concerned about profiling to see the reporting from LMPD. It protects them, the police officers, from being accused of profiling, and it also helps the community know that if they're reporting on who they stopped and how often and what zip codes, that we're all on the same playing field, understanding that discrimination is unacceptable in this community. Thank you.
Councilman Syme, you're next to the queue. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to remind folks in here, I have a Family Dollar store around my district. 75 people went in, masked, and they destroyed the entire interior of the store. Everyone had a mask on. Another thing I want to say is the KKK is not dead. What are we going to do? I haven't heard anybody say that's a proponent of this. What are we going to do when the KKK comes marching down the road with their grand wizard or whoever? What are you going to do when they do that? That's what this mask ordinance was about to begin with. The KKK. You're putting the mask right back on them, right back in the middle of the streets with their fire and whatever, and I don't go for that either. We had 75 kids again destroy Family Dollar. Everyone had a mask on. So please answer the thing about the KKK if you would.
Councilwoman McCraney, you are next to the queue, and again, you have the floor.
I certainly can't speak for the KKK, and I don't purport to do that. But I can tell you that if they walk down the street with their hoodies on, or their hoods, not hoodies, but their hoods on, that is up to them. And I certainly hope that one of the masks would fall off their face so I could see which one in this community is in that organization. I can't speak for the behavior of a group of menaces to society, but I can tell you that this ordinance is a free ordinance that allows people to wear a mask because they're concerned about their health, they're concerned about the health of others, and they're concerned about being profiled. That's what this ordinance does. We can sit here and talk about all sorts of reasons why we want people to wear a mask or not, but I can tell you during the 2020 pandemic area, there's a certain group of people who didn't want people to wear masks at all. And it was a pandemic. So some of those same people probably just don't like mask wearing. I don't know what the reason is. But this ordinance is a friendly ordinance to allow our constituents to wear a mask because that's what they are requesting. I heard them loud and clear, and I am supporting the community in what they are suggesting. I've not heard anybody, and I represent District 7. We all know where those boundaries are. Not one of my constituents called me and told me that this ban, that this mask ordinance was a bad ordinance. Not a one. I'm suggesting to you that I put forth this ordinance based on the overwhelming support that it got. Well, it didn't get it, but the overwhelming comments that we heard during that public meeting. People do not want a mask ban in this community. Thank you.
Okay, the next in the queue is be Councilman Leninger. You're going to have the floor in 1 second. I want to remind us all that if we're getting in the queue, we're going to have something new to discuss and not recycling the same arguments over and over again. You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I just want to be clear to answer Councilman Siam's concerns, which I would share about the illegal action at the Family Dollar with the 75 masked robbers, that's still illegal under this ordinance. Everyone involved in that act will be charged and, in fact, would have an escalation and a greater penalty than what we currently have on the books. They would be charged and have a greater penalty. And so that, to me, is not a reason to vote against this bill. I would also love to talk to you after the meeting, Councilman, about more details about that, because I haven't heard about that event, but it sounds terrifying to have 75 armed people robbing a store at the same time. Or masked people robbing a store at the same time. So I'd love to know when that happened. I can look some more information on it.
Councilwoman Purvis, you're next in the queue, and you have the floor.
I've listened to this debate, and I see both sides of the street, the pros and the cons. So I will be voting present. I'm letting it be known now. But I would also like to make the motion that we go ahead and vote on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Yes.
A motion's been made to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? The chair rules that the ayes have it. The amendment is now before us. Next in the queue is Councilman Winkler. You have the floor. We called the question on the amendment. So now the amendment has been amended and is properly before us.
No, you have to vote on it.
We've got it. Okay, vote on the amendment now. All those in favor for the amendment, say aye. Any in opposition?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, the amendment passes and is now before us. Okay. And the next in the queue then is...
I'm about to put them in. Thank you.
The next in the queue is Councilman Winkler. You have the floor.
Thank you.
Yeah, so with we now have the amended ordinance before us. And without belaboring the point, I hear some of the concerns from colleagues about the KKK, LMPD. Again, I would just point out that, this is sort of the approaching the project, the problem, from the other directions what the administration proposed. It might be worth considering going to that proposal, because it still then would eliminate the KKK challenge, because the masks would be outlawed except for exceptions around health, age, et cetera. And so we may end up at sort of the sweet spot of both the end result that we're looking for, as well as maintaining the protections that we want. So I just throw that out there for food for thought. And so that would be a different amendment, just to contemplate. It might require us tabling and going back to, I don't have that list in front of me that the administration of LMPD had talked about at that meeting, but I remember it was people below 15, people above 60, I'm going to say. Again, I don't remember that being totally accurate, but somewhere in that age group, and then anybody wearing it for, religious, health reasons, et cetera. So I would just throw that out there for consideration, particularly if you're opposed to the amendment that just passed.
Councilman Pizzatini, you're next in the queue, and you have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I would not support tabling it. I think at this point, Councilman McCraney has put forward and gave people plenty of time to consider the vote here, and I think it's time to vote up or down. Just to address a question, which was, what they did was still illegal, except for the fact that you couldn't identify one single person who committed that crime because they wore a mask, rendering things like surveillance video completely useless. So, this has been surveillance video, as an example, is things that businesses have used since the creation of the video camera in order to assist with the reduction of stealing, theft, vandalism, et cetera, in their businesses. And we essentially make, by adopting this, we make those techniques completely useless. Again, the administration did not come out to support this. They did not even show up to committee to support it. And again, I don't know one LMPD officer that says they prefer this version. Thank you.
Councilwoman Parker, you're next in the queue. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you. I'll be brief. We already have a mask ban on the books, and, it's already been said before, people are out there committing crimes using masks to avert the law and commit crimes. So, and with that being said, you don't see LMPD out there previously or in the past targeting kids that are somewhere in a park with a mask, or a little old lady coming out of the grocery store. They've said, and Mayor Greenberg has said, LMPD will be using common sense with this. So I am going to go with common sense, and I am going to vote for and uphold what we already have on the books. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman McCraney, again, you have the floor, madam.
Just last statement. I don't know any criminal that's going to wake up and decide to commit a crime and say, ooh, I better not wear this mask because there's a mask ban in Louisville, Kentucky. That's all I have to say about it. A criminal is going to be a criminal whether they're wearing a mask or not.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
All right, yes, thanks. If I can recall, I believe I was the public safety chair when this ordinance from the mayor's office first came over, just to go back a little bit. And I think that I was for this ordinance that the mayor had in place, and a lot of people was against it. Even a lot of my constituents was against it. They felt like that how can you tell someone to wear a mask, or they shouldn't, or they should. A lot of people have a lot of health concerns. Then on the other side, I have senior citizens. I have constituents that are saying LMPD is not solving crimes because people are wearing masks. So I'm kind of getting both sides of it, or I did get both sides of it after lengthy conversations with my vice chair and with the administration. The mayor did say, well, we're not going to enforce that. We'll just leave it where it's at. Out of nowhere, we have a community meeting, and don't nobody got more crime in their district, probably, than me and my councilman Purvis down there. We got probably, if you do the data, we got a lot of crime. But crime is everywhere. We know that. But I see passion in my colleague down there, and am I sure? I'm kind of indecisive on where I want to go. You know, I know Councilman Piangentini doesn't want to table it, but I want to support it. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to with this. It's like darn if you do, darn if you don't. You know, 1 minute we're on LMPD and the homicide detectives on why nothing's getting solved. Well, nothing's getting solved because you can't identify the person. And then if you put an age on it, well, you know, and for me, I feel like that it will be a huge target if LMPD starts to or is able to, you know, stop someone just because they have on a mask. We're going to have 1,000,001 lawsuits. No one has to tell an officer or anyone else for the reasons that they have a mask on. So it puts LMPD in a tough situation. You know, LMPD is already in a tough situation. You know, that's why we're under the consent decree now. You know, so I just kind of want to, you know, I'm kind of struggling with this, so I'm not quite sure just yet. So I just wanted to, you know, put that out there.
See no one else in the queue? This is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll.
Councilmember Parrish Wright?
Yes, for the amendment, right? Yes.
No, ma'am, this is for the final vote.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge?
No.
Okay, I'm ready. Mr. President, you have 9 yes votes, 14 no votes, and 1 present vote.
The ordinance fails. The next item is item number 31. A reading, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance amending Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, Chapter 90, to add an exemption for cigar bars. Read in full.
Items properly before us. This came out of Councilman Reno Weber's committee. You have the floor, sir.
I'm going to let the Councilman Piagentini speak to this.
Councilman Piagentini, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Yes, it passed with a favorable recommendation with, I think, 6 yes, 2 no votes out of committee. I want to review very quickly what this does for the entirety of council, although I've spoken to many of you about what this does. Number one, there are requirements here that we've laid out. Number one, they have to have a valid quota retail drink license. They must also have, they must generate at least 15%. Now this is, I know this came up during committee of the whole. I want to address this very clearly. Generate 15% of its annual gross income from on-site sale. That's very, very important. Many of these competitor states, which I'll talk about, do not have that provision necessarily in their law, but we do. We go very far in making sure that, these are truly cigar bars. On-site sales of pipe tobacco, paraphernalia, and accessories related to the consumption of cigars and pipe tobacco, and rental of humidors or combination thereof. They can't sell anything to anyone below 21 years of age or permit entrance for anyone 21 or younger. No, it specifically prohibits the use of electronic cigarettes or vapor products or smoking products other than cigars or pipe tobacco in the interior space. To be eligible, the cigar bar must obtain one of our tobacco licenses. That is a way that public health will have the ability to regulate them. There are already laws on the books that require certain activities if you get a tobacco license. You must implement measures or be constructed in a manner that the cigar bar does not pass into interior or enclosed air spaces of any other structure. So in other words, you have to be either a standalone building or, if you share a wall, having a door or a window or a shared ventilation system would prohibit you from operating in that manner. You must have a smoke-free space for the delivery of supplies, mail, and other items by persons other than employees of the bar. So again, we want to protect those that are not working or patronizing the location. Those people have made the choice to go there. Other people that an Amazon or UPS delivery person did not choose, ergo, they must have a smoke-free option for them to go in and make those deliveries. And then they have to have a notification at all entrances that people will be exposed to cigar and pipe tobacco, and that the smoking or vaporizing inhalants other than cigars or pipe tobacco is prohibited, and it must be in a conspicuous place at every entrance to the building. I know the 15% question came up earlier. I want to read a few states. Indiana has a 10% requirement for cigar sales. Tennessee has, quote, a portion of total sales. You could say it's a thousandth of a percent of their sales are to cigars, and it works. Michigan is at 10%, New Jersey's at 10%, Pennsylvania is at 10%, New Mexico is at 10%, New York is at 10%. So we are at the top end of the range when we benchmark this against other states. And after talking to retailers, this seemed to be, we did want to go as high as we could and still allow these people to operate. I think this is going to be a tremendous benefit to our community, aligned with our tourism industries, particularly around bourbonism, horse racing, and others. And I appreciated everybody that spoke in favor of this during the committee meeting. It meant a lot to me. And I think we have a great opportunity to allow what will almost certainly be a couple small businesses to operate in this city. I would tell you that there is one of these that operates in Indiana right across the river. That owner admitted that they were intending to start that business in Louisville, and they went across the river when they found we had no exception for cigar bars. And over and over again, when I speak to hoteliers and others in the downtown area, they say the same thing, that we lose business to Indiana because we do not have this. I think we have drafted this in the most sensible way with some of the most protective provisions. And one more thing about any concerns about public health. I looked up the lung cancer rates of these states that have had these cigar bar amendments for many years. All of them have lower lung cancer rates than we have. So there is no link whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, there is no study that anybody can produce that links cigar and pipe tobacco smoking to an increased rate of cancer. So thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate your support and looking forward to passing this today.
Councilwoman Parrish-Wright, you're first in the queue, and you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My flight's about to take off. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to comment. I just want to say in 2006, my heart condition was triggered by secondhand smoke. Right around when we passed these strong laws to protect Louisvillians from secondhand smoke. Ann Braden, who chain smoke, came to my hospital and said, my husband died of a heart condition. I'm sorry, our chain smoking in that building, the Braden Center, help trigger this, and we need to do what we can to support the smoking ban. I think we so worried about tourism that we forget about the lives of Louisvillians that can be impacted. This can affect workers. We have young adults. I have young adults that might consider working there because they need employment, and they're subjecting their lungs to secondhand smoke. Yes, I used to party back in the day, and that's how I found out that I was allergic to it. But that's no excuse for us to make decisions that can have health impacts. We all know that big tobacco has caused us in our state. The last thing I want to say is that if we really want to compete with Indiana, put people on a trolley, take them across the bridge, and let them go to that cigar bar. Tourism will not save us without the right decision making. Tourism is a tool for a city, for revenue. It is not for us to build two different Louisvilles, which I feel like some of this decision making is about creating two different Louisvilles and not creating one Louisville where we all can survive and thrive without having to worry about the lives matter over tourism dollars. We already got bourbon everywhere, and we don't need this. We don't need this. So what are we thinking about when it comes to workers' rights and workers' protections who will accept those jobs because they'll probably be low-paying jobs? that they just need to get in and be able to afford a place to live. So if my phone cuts out before I can vote, I am not for this. I will be voting against this if I'm allowed. It's not anything against what you were trying to do, Councilman Piagentini. It's just the point that there's other factors that are not being factored in. This is not worth us risking the lungs and the lives of the people. Anybody with children and wanting a future should not be supporting this. Let's work with Indiana and send people over there. I don't think that the money that it may generate or not is worth this. Thank you. Your safety.
Councilman Leninger, you're next in the queue, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I spoke against this at the committee level. Even though I am not a member of that committee, I made a point to attend. I'm surprising to speak again against this ordinance and this amendment that lowers our public health standards and protections from workers. This is a worker protection issue. We can say until we're blue in the face that workers have the right to assume risk. That's not what our government has traditionally said, that we have a duty to regulate and protect workers because workers do not enter into a 100% voluntary activity when they accept employment. They're doing it because they need a job, they need to feed their kids, they need to put a roof over their heads, and what Councilwoman Parrish-Wright said is exactly right. The people who will be staffing these bars are people who have less means than the average member of this body, and have a greater need to accept whatever paying job they can have, and they will be exposed to greater risk. I'm going to have to respectfully correct the record from Councilman Piagentini. John Hopkins' study says compared with non-smokers, regular cigar smokers are 4 to 10 times more likely to die from oral cancer, esophageal cancer, and laryngeal cancer. Cigar smokers may spend an hour or more smoking one large cigar that can contain the same amount of nicotine as a full pack of cigarettes. The reason that you do not see a commensurate rise with lung cancer in comparison for cigar smokers and cigarette smokers is the way the cigars are ingested, that the smoker pulls the smoke into their throat, into their mouth, but they do not breathe it into their lungs. And so you do not see the same rise in lung cancer rates that you would see from a cigarette smoker, but they do, however, have a great increase in cancer risk, and the danger of secondhand smoke is still real for those workers. This is not good public policy. This is not a good public health initiative, and it is a harm against workers. I will be voting no because I stand with workers 100% of the time.
Councilman Winkler, you're next in the queue, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say very briefly my opposition to this ordinance. First of all, I don't bear anybody, I take no offense with anybody wanting to smoke cigars or pipe tobacco or anything else in the privacy of their home. I think, it's your body, your choice, and it would be hypocritical of me to judge people for what they want to do in the privacy of their own home. The issue that I've got with this legislation is the same that I raised when we debated it 2 years ago, which is, to me, you could substitute the word tobacco for the word cigar here, and I think there's no reason to make any argument against that ordinance. When we passed the smoking ban in the city of Louisville, I think it is one of the best pieces of legislation that we have passed. I think it is transformative for our hospitality industry. As somebody who likes to go to restaurants, occasionally goes to a bar, and does not smoke, I enjoy being able to go to those establishments without coming home and smelling like an ashtray. I think that any loosening of that regulation, to me, opens the door to further reductions of that law. Again, as I said, I could make the same argument if I wanted to open a restaurant that's strictly a smoking restaurant and clearly advertise it and the employees get to work there of their own free will. Why not allow cigarette smoking in just my establishment? And because I can make those same arguments as you can make for cigar bars, I will be opposed and appreciate the sponsors' work on this, but for that reason, have to vote no. Thank you.
Councilman Piagentini, you're next in the queue, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Just to respond to that argument, every single jurisdiction I just rifled off has existing smoking bans and the exemption for cigar bars. And these exemptions go back decades in some instances. And all the jurisdictions that have smoking bans and exemption for cigar bars, do you know how many of those jurisdictions then did anything to repeal or weaken their general smoking bans? The answer is zero. There is precisely zero evidence that these exemptions do anything to damage, and I would fully oppose anything to damage the general non-smoking ordinance more broadly across the city. There's zero evidence that's the case, zero evidence that's happened, and zero evidence that having this exemption has done anything to increase the risk of public health. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Owen, you're next to the queue. You have the floor.
Thank you, President. I just wanted to say, I spoke to this in the committee. If I thought that this was going to be Pandora's box and that this was going to weaken the smoking ban and turn into something that I don't expect it to be, I would not be supportive of it. But I really do believe that this is a very narrow carve-out for aficionados. That's what I have seen happen in other states. That's what I expect to see happen here. But I also think there is a pretty significant economic development opportunity as well. So I'll be supporting it for those reasons. Thank you.
Councilman Batshon, you're next to the queue. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first state that I'm in support of this ordinance. And I'm going to point out a couple facts here. Coming from experience, I was in this industry of the bar, restaurant industry for quite some time. And when the ordinance passed for the smoking ban, I was in the bar business, and I thought it was the worst ban ever. Well, in history, it was a great ban, and I appreciate it. As I transitioned into the restaurant business, it was even better. But this is a separate, diverse type of business, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're mixing apples and oranges here. And to point out something, it's a bar that sells cigar products in its own standalone or separate room in an establishment. And to point out that I've heard twice now, these are low-paying, underpaid jobs that people can barely get by. I'm gonna point out some statistics. An average of bartenders at 20.41 cents an hour, hostess at $20 an hour, bar backs are averaging $17 an hour, managers from $62,000 to $84,000 per year, plus tips, as these bartenders and servers could be making upwards of $100,000 a year. So to tell me this is a low-paying job, I will respectfully disagree with you. I think this is a great opportunity to once again say that the city of Louisville is open for business and for diverse business, period, full stop.
Councilman Hawkins, you're next to my queue.
All right. I'll be in support of this. You know, I know my colleague said that this would open up a lot of things, right? Well, we don't just stop things just because something else may open up. I'm also going to say that the bottom line, if you're a smoker and if you're going to smoke, when and where you smoke, banning cigarettes does not stop you from smoking. So I'm definitely going to be in support of this. That's it.
Seeing no one else in the queue, this is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll, please.
Councilmember Parrish Wright?
No.
Oh, sorry. I got it. It's open. I need to open, so hold on. Just hold on 1 second. It's opening. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm just going to start over. I'm opening a new one. All right. Councilmember Parrish Wright, you said no. I got you. Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge?
Yes.
Councilwoman? All right, I'm ready. Mr. President, you have 20 yes votes and 6 no votes.
The ordinance is adopted.
Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 32.
An ordinance amending Chapter 156 of the Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances relating to the reduction of fines and costs of owner-occupied properties. Amendment by substitution. Read in full.
Items properly before us. Councilman Owen, this came out of your committee, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you, President Winkler. So this was sponsored by Councilman Batchon and Councilwoman Purvis, and I'll let them speak to it in just a minute. Just as a quick kind of refresher, this ordinance would grant eligible property owners who receive a state homestead exemption and meet the below requirements the opportunity to eliminate up to 40% of the total amount owed or no more than $15,000 in property maintenance code citation fees levied by the Code Enforcement Board. The eligibility requirements include applicant needs to show they have utilized the property as their primary residence for the preceding 15 years. Property must be in compliance with LMCO 156 at the time of application. The owner must not have any other property found to be in violation of LMCO 156 within the last 10 years. An owner may only apply for the reduction once every 5 years, and an application will not be valid if the property is involved in any court action concerning the property. We did request a financial impact statement. The committee did, and we received that. And the estimate was about $777,322. What we heard back from OMB and from the administration was the thought was that that would be kind of incremental as opposed to all coming at once. And then we also debated whether that money would likely be recouped by Metro government at all anyway. So with that said, I will pass it to Councilwoman Purvis to speak in more detail about it. Thank you.
Thank you. There is an amendment in the system, and I'd like to have Jefferson County Attorney Robbie Howard here to read the amendment, explain it, and then I'll make a motion for the version to be adopted.
Just to clarify, there isn't an amendment in the system, but I can notify it.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Robbie Howard, Jefferson County Attorney's Office. There are two proposed amendments. Were in section. It's on page 2, section D. Would increase the reduction to 60% and would increase the total potential reduction to from 15,000 to 20,000.
I'd like to make a motion.
Is there a second? Motion's properly before us. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion on the motion. Councilman Batchon, are you on the motion or?
I think that was, I think it was the last one by mistake. I think it's Councilman Leonard's in there.
Okay, somebody. That's not my cue at all. Councilman Leninger, you're next in the queue, according to everybody else other than me.
So I just want to ask a question. The financial impact statement, that was for the previous figures, correct? Do we have any kind of estimate about what that's going to change it? Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Any in opposition?
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, this is amended. Any discussion on the amended ordinance as it stands? If not, this requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please open the roll.
Councilmember Parrish Wright. Councilmember Parrish Wright. Okay. Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge.
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 33, please.
An ordinance relating to the zoning of property located at 11100 Garden Trace Drive containing approximately 36.68 acres and being a Louisville Metro case number 24 zone 0071 as amended, read in full.
Motion. Items brought before us. Councilman Owen, this came out of your committee. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you again. So this is northwest of Penrun Golf Course and located at the terminus of Garden Trace Drive. Parcel will become a southern extension for a previously approved multifamily development. This property will be used to construct 82 additional units. The units will be constructed in 4 buildings, 3 of which will be 3-story, 24-unit apartments, along with an additional 2-story, 10-unit complex. In total, the development will have 748 units and grant additional entrance southward to Hasbrook Drive. This, so there was some concern about, the planning staff reported that there were 3 wetland areas, 2 of which were jurisdictional wetlands, which require permitting from the Army Corps of Engineers. Planning staff reported the wetland study found no significant impact. It came over from the Planning Commission unanimously, and it passed the committee unanimously. It is in Councilman Hudson's district. I'm sure he would like to speak to it.
Councilman Hudson?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is one that came before this body in a previous meeting and was sent back and so that we could gain some more information about it. The developer came forward, offered some very generous binding elements, answered all the questions I had, and I would encourage support for it. Thank you.
Seeing no one else in the queue, this is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll.
Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge.
Yes.
Councilmember Parrish Wright. Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 34.
An ordinance relating to the zoning of property located at 11401 Race Road containing approximately 2.4 acres and being a Louisville Metro, case number 24 zone 0115, amendment by substitution, read in full.
Is there a motion? A second? Items brought before us. Councilman Owen, this again out of your committee. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. So this is another one of these that we've dealt with a couple of times recently, where it's in Councilman Bratcher's district, and he'll speak to it. But this is for vehicular storage, 43 parking spaces, and some other things. But neighborhood form district and in the Fern Creek Small Area Plan. The problem here was that the JCAO spoke with the applicant's attorney, who admitted that they incorrectly noticed this change in zoning, and said the item needs to be returned to the Planning Commission to correct the notice violation. So we just did this recently for another project, so it's very similar that a yes vote would send this back to the Planning Commission, allowing for proper notice to be delivered by the sponsor, and then go through the proper meeting as well. So that would be a yes vote, would send it back to the Planning Commission. Councilman Bratcher, if you want to add anything to that.
I fully concur, Chair. You did a great job on that.
No one else in the queue. This is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll, please.
Councilmember Parrish Wright. Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge.
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 24 yes votes.
The vote count again?
You had 24 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 35, please.
An ordinance relating to the closure of a 25-foot wide unnamed and unimproved road east of Royal Road and south of South Pope Lick Road containing approximately 25,132.75 square feet and being Louisville Metro, case number 24, street closure 0032, read in full.
The item is properly before us. Councilman Owen, this came out of your committee.
Thank you, President Ackerson. This is in Councilman Kramer's district, so I'll turn it over to him in just a second. Property is located just south of the intersection of Pope Lick and Real Roads, and originally recorded as an unimproved road in Plat Book 3, page 81, and associated with a major preliminary subdivision. Approved by the Planning Commission 8-0, came out of committee unanimously as well. Councilman Kramer, I'm sure you'd like to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. President. The title, I think, is interesting and a little bit misleading. It says it's an unnamed and unimproved road. In truth, it's a strip of land on a map somewhere that says it's going to be a road. There was never anything done. So if you go out there, it's not an unimproved road. It's just a piece of flat land that's out there. There's no point in making it a road today. Again, it was in the 1900s when this thing was first put on a map that way. And so as the property owners are looking at future development, they want to be able to include the entire space of land instead of cutting out this piece that, as I said, is not an unimproved road at all. It's just a piece of the property that was on a map somewhere to be a road. So I appreciate a yes vote. Thanks.
Seeing no one else in the queue, this is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please open the roll.
Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes. Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Madam Clerk, a reading of item number 36, please.
An ordinance relating to the zoning of property at 1104 Logan Street containing approximately 0.1 acres and being in Louisville Metro, case number 24, zone 0116, read in full.
The item is brought before us. Councilman Owen, again.
Thank you, President Ackerson. This one's cool. This is the Idlewild Butterfly Farm. It's on the west side of Logan and south of St. Catherine Streets. A couple of funny things that came out of this one. It's a USDA inspected and permitted facility that raises, sells, and displays a variety of insects for biological pest control. And then it was interesting that the staff gave a presentation of and called it the manufacturing of pollinating insects, which is something that I had never heard before. But this is in Councilman Lineger's district, and I'm sure he'd like to speak to it.
Councilman Lineger, you have the floor.
Yeah, Idlewild Butterfly Farm is a great neighbor, and everyone in Shelby Park is excited to have that sort of business. That's the sort of mixed development in the neighborhood that people move to Shelby Park for. I personally urge all of my colleagues to vote yes.
Seeing no one else in the queue, this is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll.
Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge?
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. A reading of item 37, please, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance relating to the zoning of property at 2213 South Preston Street containing approximately 0.1036 acres and being in Louisville Metro, case number 24, zone 0136, read in full.
Items brought before us. Again, Councilman Owen, you have the floor.
Thank you again, President Ackerson. This is a change in zoning to allow for a tattoo parlor. It is on Preston near Nord's Bakery and President's Boulevard and adjacent to Corfage Floors. The Planning Commission approved of the zoning change unanimously, as did the committee. This is in Councilwoman Chappell's district. I'm sure she'd like to speak to it.
Councilwoman Chappell, you have the floor.
Sure, thank you. Neighborhood is in support of this, excited to have activation in this space, and I don't think that there's any issues here, and I would ask my colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Seeing no one else in the queue, this is an ordinance that requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please open the roll.
Councilmember Mulvey Woolridge?
Yes.
Mr. President, you have 25 yes votes.
The ordinance is adopted. Colleagues, item number 38 I'm electing to hold for the time, and so we will not be called today. With that concludes old business. The next item on our agenda is the new business. As you leave the chambers, please do so quietly so the clerk may read the new business. New business comprises of item number 39 through 57. Clerk, will you read those?
The following legislation was assigned to Ad Hoc Committee on Efficiency of Boards and Commissions. Item 39, an ordinance amending the Louisville Jefferson County Metro Government Code of Ordinances, LMCO, Section 40.45, to address board members' conflicts of interest. The following legislation was assigned to Appropriations Committee. Item 40, an ordinance appropriating $10,000 from neighborhood development funds in the following manner: $5,000 each from Districts 4 and 9 through the Office of Management and Budget to the Hildegard House, Inc. for the organization's personnel, utility, and phone costs. Item 41, an ordinance appropriating $5,500 from District 13 Neighborhood Development Funds to Metro Parks for the 2025 Village Green Concert Series. Item 42, an ordinance appropriating $11,120 from District 9 Neighborhood Development Funds to Metro Parks for the repair of a fence at Field Elementary. Item 43, an ordinance appropriating $2,500 from Neighborhood Development Funds in the following manner: $2,500 from District 13 through the Office of Management and Budget to Greater Louisville Pride Foundation, Inc. for printing costs for a banner honoring My Morning Jacket. Item 44, an ordinance appropriating $5,000 from Neighborhood Development Funds in the following manner: $5,000 from District 12 through the Office of Management and Budget to Harbor House of Louisville, Inc. for payment of the Great American Race event, game contract, and marketing costs for the 22nd Annual Kentucky Derby fundraising event. Item 45, an ordinance appropriating $2,500 from neighborhood development funds in the following manner: $2,500 from District 9 through the Office of Management and Budget to the Louisville Academy of Music, Inc. for costs associated with its summer symposium. The following legislation was assigned to Budget Committee. Item 46, an ordinance amending ordinance number 100, Series 2024, relating to the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 operating budget by transferring $25,000 from the Neighborhood Development Fund, District 15, to the Louisville Metro Council, General Operations District 15. Item 47, an ordinance amending ordinance number 100, Series 2024, relating to the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 operating budget by transferring $35,000 from the Neighborhood Development Fund, District 8, to the Louisville Metro Council, General Operations District 8. Item 48, an ordinance amending ordinance number 80, Series 2023, relating to the fiscal year 2023 through 2024 capital budget, and ordinance number 100, Series 2024, relating to the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 operating budget by transferring $213,776.50 from the capital project titled Louisville Muhammad Ali Center Improvements to the operating budget for operational purposes. Item 49, an ordinance amending ordinance number 101, Series 2024, and ordinance 100, Series 2024, relating to the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 capital budget and the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 operating budget, respectively, by transferring $50,000 from the District 9 Capital Infrastructure Fund to the District 9 Neighborhood Development Fund. The following legislation was assigned to Equity, Community Affairs, Housing, Health, and Education Committee. Item 50, in a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept $40,500 of funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture through the Summer Feeding Service Grant Program to be administered by the Department of Public and Health and Wellness. The following legislation was assigned to Labor and Economic Development Committee. Item 51, a resolution ratifying and approving a collective bargaining agreement from the date of its approval through June 30, 2029, relating to the wages, hours, and terms and conditions of employment between Louisville, Jefferson County, Metro Government, and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO Local 2629, concerning certain employees of the Louisville Zoo. The following legislation was assigned to Planning and Zoning Committee. Item 52, an ordinance relating to the zoning of properties located at 4514R and 4516R Crawford Avenue and 7006 Textile Avenue, containing approximately 3.84 acres, and being Louisville Metro Case Number 24 Zone 0128. Item 53, an ordinance relating to the zoning of property located at 1918, 1922, and 1926 Lower Hunters Trace, containing approximately 3.66 acres, and being Louisville Metro Case Number 24 Zone 0139. Item 54, an ordinance imposing a temporary moratorium on billiards, parlors, game rooms, and similar entertainment uses in the Highview Plan Development District. Item 59, a resolution requesting the Planning Commission review the Highview Plan Development District with regard to billiard, parlors, game rooms, and similar entertainment uses in the use table. Item 56, a resolution recognizing the Meriwether-Fort Hill Neighborhood Association and the official neighborhood map of the Meriwether-Fort Hill neighborhood. The following legislation was assigned to Public Safety Committee. Item 57, an ordinance amending sections 123.01 through 123.06 and sections 123.32, 123.35, and 123.99 of Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, LMCO, regarding regulated property and restricted metals, read in full.
Does anyone have any announcements? Nope, no announcements. With that, this concludes our meeting. The next meeting scheduled for is Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We are adjourned.